The What's Neat This Week podcast is supported by enthusiastic model railroaders just like you. Additional support is provided by Athearn Trains. Check out all the new monthly announcements at athearn.com. Additional support is also provided by Oak Hill Model Railroad Track Supply. Check them out. Their website is ohrtracksupply.com. Thank you very much, Jeff Otto, for your support.
What we've been doing now for past 30
It's getting
podcasts.
easier. I think it's getting easier. What are we doing today? 30 mic. Boom, boom, boom. Somebody pour the hot coffee. Everybody's got coffee, right? I can't see it.
I don't like coffee.
Somebody give us a countdown.
Yeah, me too, but I don't like the way it tastes.
All right, boys, let's roll in 3, 2, 1.
This is podcast number 30, March 24th, 2018, the What's Neat This Week podcast, where you get your latest news in the hobby. So pour yourself a hot cup of coffee, kick back and relax, because this is a time that we all get to hang out, and we're going to run some trains a little bit later. We've got a lot of information to talk about in this week's show, and I'm going to start with the latest news. I've got some information from Broadway Limited that they've recently introduced their gorgeous E1s, and I'm a fan of the Santa Fe, and I absolutely love the E1 locomotives circa about 1938. These should be absolutely exquisite models. I want to thank you, James Wright, for providing us with the footage to show off these beautiful units. As soon as they're available, I'll get a set here on the layout so that we can do some outdoor run-bys with them. These should just gleam in the sunlight. They come with a Paragon 3 sound system, I believe is what they call it. Rolling Thunder, okay. So it's a beautiful locomotive, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Broadway Limited for making such a nice model for the latest news this week. Also, I had some guests come over and visit the layout this week. Dave Rader. You'll know him as a gentleman that helps us with the RPM meet here in St. Louis. And Brad Slone. He worked for the Army Corps of Engineers and gets to build real bridges. And because he's a model railroader, the two fit together beautifully, so he loves his job. But thank you, gentlemen, for coming by and visiting this week. Now, as always, I've seemed to have forgotten to do the introductions opening. And that's okay. That's what it is when you're recording live. My name is Ken Patterson, the host of the What's Neat show over at Model Railroad Hobbyist Magazine. And I've got with me this evening Daniel Coombs, Mike Buddy, Thomas Heil on camera number 1, and I've got Tom Carr, a friend of ours, working camera number 2. Thank you, gentlemen, for helping out helping us film that tonight. I want to say that I talked to Korea Brass this week, and thank you, folks. We've sold them out of track cleaners. So an impact of the show has been tremendous in that they are filling the back orders as quickly as they can. It won't take that long. And the paint schemes, I wonder if we're going to see fancy paint schemes coming out before you know it.
Well, the one you painted here, I mean,
I love it.
It's a possibility.
It's a really neat thing. Now, look at you, Daniel. I see you've got your Boy Scout uniform on.
Yes, I do.
Now, you've missed a couple of shows because you're diligently working on your Eagle project for your Eagle Scout Award. Right. And tell us how that's going.
It's going well. I'm building 3 display stands that are 3 feet high with the top base to display artwork. At my old elementary school, my art teacher wants them so that every time a child or her students get done with their work, she can not kindly display them, but display them and just show the whole school what her students make in their class every day. So,
any more Boy Scouts in the room down here?
No. Well, there's one.
Tom, were you in Scouts?
I was.
Thomas, were you in Scouts?
I was.
Isn't it a great thing? It's a wonderful thing.
It was good times. I never made it all the way to Eagle Scout, but there was some good times in middle school.
Congratulations on making it to Eagle Scout.
Not yet.
I am also as well an Eagle Scout. I've pulled out my merit badges this evening just to show that we were there at one time enjoying the fellowship of what is Boy Scouts. And I tell you what, I learned a lot. Have you been to Philmont, New Mexico yet?
No, but I have been to Sea Base down in the Keys of Florida.
It's a fun organization. Speaking of organizations, I'm going to touch just a few hot coals if I don't mind, but something came up to my attention this week, and that's the NMRA Achievement Program. That's where you see people writing in their articles that my name is so-and-so and I'm an MMR, which is essentially a program similar to what the Eagle Scout project is for Boy Scouts, where you learn as you go along certain things. And I think there's authorship and there's model building and scenery. And I honestly don't know the breakdown of it because I am not an MMR. But I was around at the very first time when they formed that that MMR program. And I remember the day that Terry Backus, the editor of the Bulletin at the time, said, Ken, you could be like number 10. Because it was just getting started. And what it was is, I think it was NMRA's program to replace the brick program where they were selling bricks for the building to raise funds for the NMRA. And then they came up with it. But I don't think it raises any money. But what I saw on the internet was some people were kind of bent out of shape a little bit because they see the MMR behind the author's name and they think it's a little stuffy.
Right.
Like, oh, you're too good for your own britches. But that's not what it's about. It's about the achievement, it's about sharing the hobby, and quite honestly, it's a brilliant way for the NMRA to promote themselves. So when you see MMR behind, it's not somebody being better than the rest of us, it's simply somebody who's achieved the NMRA Achievement Program, which is pretty neat in itself. So check it out. I love the NMRA. I used to do a lot of photography for them at all of the shows, at the Nationals. Every year I did their photography, and I worked for the Bulletin a lot. So hats off to the NMRA. Fantastic organization. Now, Mike, I see you've got some freight cars on the table. What do you want to talk about tonight?
Well, I have one auto rack that I recently completed here. It was a Grand Trunk bi-level. It was all blue. And then my friends up in Michigan told me that there were never any open racks that were blue. That was weathered nicely, so I decided to change it to an RF&P just by changing out the placards, and I painted the flat car and put trailer train numbers on it to represent a prototype photo that I had taken years ago. But another thing I brought is passenger trains here. Everybody says we don't ever do anything about passenger trains, so here's one train of mine. It's all Missouri Pacific. This is a Proto 2000 locomotive that I painted in decal to represent the Mopac E8s, and then this is a Walters car that I painted in decal myself too. Then I have a few Rapido cars and more Walters cars, but I like the
Rapido cars are nice.
Yeah.
You got the
See
diaphragms
those-
and the gates in the
Check
back.
this out.
Those
Yeah.
Proto 2000 engines are just beautiful models in themselves.
And
It's the first time we've ever had a passenger train on the show, Mike.
Well, I hope we can do a run by later. But this is DC, so I don't know
Well,
if DC
I'll
will
tell you
even
what.
run on this layout, but we'll see.
Figure it out. We'll
Okay.
figure it out.
All right.
Is that DCC ready, you said?
I don't know.
No, it's just like DC. I'd have to put a
think.
decoder in it.
Oh, well,
So-
we can run DCC on this
That's all right.
DC
We'll
on this
figure it out.
layout. We'll just
we
transfer.
got
And one
steps.
more thing is I found my old N-scale auto racks, so I've been getting those out and kind of cleaning them up and stuff, and looking at the cars a little bit. So I'll bring those in, next podcast or two, because we'll do a little N-scale stuff. So
Mike, you came by earlier this week and filmed a segment, an in-depth segment.
yeah, about
On
the
stack packs?
Yes.
So everybody out there who's clamoring to know all the details about stack packs and actually how he built these, Mike shows us styrene.
Yeah, basic.
Wow.
Yeah, styrene
Yeah,
shape.
starting it out, how it started out. So that's a pretty good segment, and that'll run in the May.
Right.
What's Neat at Model Railroad Hobbyist Magazine. Next week we won't have a show because I'll be buried into the May video getting that done. Plus I also have still a bunch of videos to get done for Caboose. Their Passion for Train series of videos that we did when we filmed those layouts in Colorado about 3 weeks ago. So just getting through it, finished taxes this week. I love taxes because numbers are brilliant and they're always exact.
Right.
Got that done this week, thank goodness. Check that off the list. You know what else happened this week? The weather was great, so I did a reshoot. You see these beautiful locomotives on the table here. The CSA-1s, those are the articulated new ones.
Early Challengers.
Right, from Athearn. And I shot the SP&S articulated Challenger and also the 484, this beautiful Union Pacific locomotive here.
Yeah, Union Pacific, not Northern.
We reset up the city scene outside. I'm getting a lot faster at setting that up. And this time I nailed the shot. I'm pretty sure I got it right, exactly the way Chris wanted it. It was gorgeous clouds that day.
Producer names.
And the setup just kept on going. I mean, the setup went on, and while you're watching the high-speed video of a takedown here, which is amazing to me how it doesn't take very long at all to take down these things. But it just came out to be a really nice photo shoot. We worked it, the weather's nice, and I've got some great high-speed video of it coming apart. That's why I think I've talked about it before. Also, what else do I have on the list? Campbell Rice, who was on the show just a few weeks ago showing us the RailPro system, sent us some photographs through Facebook of a bridge that he's building. He really liked the river bridge that I built on my layout using the, I think it was Central Valley Bridge. And so he's built one now with some 50-foot girder approaches, and it looks great, Campbell. Super good
does.
job.
Yeah, good job,
Very nice.
Campbell.
That's going to be really weird to edit that if I said that already. Now, what else have we got going on the list here? Bob Rivard sent us some photographs through YouTube of an upcoming article that he's got for Model Railroad Hobbyist magazine on how he did some U-25B locomotives in Rock Island. We love you, Bob Rivard. Great work.
Bob, check your PM's Facebook. I sent you something.
He does do some amazing work. Like, I even saw the Prototype Models Meet, was it, where he had that G-scale engine running without track?
Yeah.
That my mind was like, really? That could happen? And then he explains to say it's all dead rail equipment that he uses. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Can I talk to, what have you been working on?
Just work mostly.
Have you been doing any model railroading? We haven't seen you that often. The computer you put in here is working fantastic. It's blowing through the videos brilliantly.
Yeah, so pretty much just work, getting you upgraded with your computers and stuff like that. Me and Brad haven't done too much on our layout yet. He's also been having truck issues, so he's been a lot of
Brad,
money.
That's right. I love Brad. He showed us those Rapido Amtrak locomotives that one time he came by here.
Yeah,
those were nice.
Very nice. Yeah, so now he's finally got that sorted out, so we're probably going to start, although it's starting to get nice outside, but we're going to get back to it. Funds are starting to come around. Tax refund should be coming shortly. So we'll get back to building soon. When we do that, and I'll be sure to share photos with everybody. I haven't really done too much, but when we get it there, I'll share it and let everybody know how we're doing with it.
There you go.
That's awesome. Now, I've been working on a toy train this week, if you can believe that. I've been working on what my wife refers to as the Pac-Man train, which is a bunch of ore cars in Canadian Pacific paint, so they look like the little Pac-Man as the train goes along. And quite frankly, it's a train that I've resurrected from death. And so I put Katie couplers on it this week, and I started painting the wheels brown. You know how we take that brown rust-looking color paint, you paint it into the wheel and let it dry and put it back on the track. I literally had an assembly line going trying to get that project done. It only took about 3 hours to get through 38 cars.
And then here's one of the engines. I don't know, the Alco
I'm going to use those engines to pull
or something.
it. But one thing I want to talk about that project was a handy tool to have that's really helpful when you're changing out your wheel sets or Katie couplers are these demagnetizer tools. I used it on the project, and I'm showing you B-roll footage of it right now, where you just simply insert the screwdriver in it, and it becomes magnetized by the device, so it can easily attract to the coupler screws and the wheel frame screws, so you don't lose anything. They stick to the screwdriver, and it's easier to line up the threads that way. So it's a simple tool. A lot of people know about it, but so many people don't. And that's where you get to learn that stuff on this show, right?
Don't put that by your cell phone, though, or your credit cards.
Your credit cards? Yeah.
So, that's super useful, and they also make like little grabber tools, too.
Yeah.
So say between the magnetized stuff and that little grabber
little
tool.
claw thing.
Yeah, the little mini claw.
Yeah.
That thing works phenomenal for getting something, especially when you're trying to put a little coupler pocket, and you need that little extra oomph on there. That'll slip it right in. It's nice.
Super good. I want to thank the two sponsors we've got for the show currently,
yes,
and that is Oak Hill, Model Railroad Track Supply, Jeff Otto making crossings and various hand-laid pre-lab, jigs to pre-hand lay your track. And also Athearn, who this week we're talking about their GP7 U's. These are rebuilt GP7s. They come in Santa Fe, the Chicago Northwestern GP9R, and the Wisconsin Central GP7U. Again, another rebuilt with a modern cab on an old Jeep 9. Again, these are the things that you could only get in brass a long time ago. It's amazing to me that a plastic manufacturer can produce that variety.
Yes.
And Athearn is doing it with these wonderful models. So hats off to Athearn. Thank you for that.
All the road-specific details, or even unit-specific details on these steam locomotives is what blows me away now. The different smoke boxes on the front, the different valve. I mean, every unit they modeled correctly.
There are, and I am standing corrected on this when I did the videos on the CSA ones, there are 5 different front ends that I've got here, 5 different pilot variations and handrail front end variations.
That is just amazing.
And I'm going to shoot a photograph in 2 more days, so probably Tuesday I'll be shooting these outdoors in real sunlight on a turntable scene where I will have all 6 of the varieties that I have here on hand in a nice photograph. So look forward to that this week, but I cannot believe that there's 5 variations. In video, I said there was 3. In What's Neat, I announced 3. There are 5.
I mean,
because I looked at them here and I was like, wait a minute, that one's different, and this one's. It was a fun surprise.
Right.
I love surprises like that. A surprise that I didn't appreciate this week that I've learned a lot about. I'm destroying part of my layout and rebuilding it for the maze What's Neat. I'm actually changing the corner section of the layout. And that brings in the discussion tonight, the word foam shrinkage. Foam shrinkage, yes. Because I've discovered something on this now. While I've been working on this project, I have discovered that I've got a bunch of cavities or caves in my foam. And for about a year or two, me and Joe Fugate have been discussing this, and he wants me to say, hey, don't lay your track directly on top of foam because there's issues, and Ken's finding them out. Well, I certainly found out something this week upon tearing apart that module, which is better than 8 years old, so I built it my old way of building things, where I use liquid nail to glue the foam layers together, and there's 3 layers over there.
Yeah.
And the problem I've been having, and I already know foam shrinkage on length. We've demonstrated that on the Bluff model where I cut it with a saw, and then 7 or 8 years later, and that module's never been touched. There was a 1/2 inch gap between the modules, so that's the length shrinkage. But for up and down, for horizontal movement like that, I thought that's what was going on, because I'd have to come back and pry up my track somewhere where all of a sudden there would be a dip where there wasn't one 2 years earlier. So then we arrived at the conclusion that we would router out a part of the layout and lay 3/4 inch plywood in it from now on to have dependable roadbed in foam. Well, guess what? That's not necessary. Upon taking apart this module, I found great big gaps and cavities in the foam where the liquid nail sat there as it cured and just ate a gap. And it happened to be that some of those gaps were right underneath the trackage. So that's what was causing so I got in there with the Great Foam Pro gun, stuffed it underneath the foam, and I'm filling it up. I'm filling up the gaps underneath there. And it solved the problem. I put weights on top of the track so that the track wouldn't rise. But it has solved that problem. So again, so far so good. It's still safe to lay foam directly onto track onto foam. That works. Now another thing I did do is one of the modules, I had a pretty big gap between 2 of the modules over there. And I don't know if this is due to foam shrinkage or I'm not sure what, but I wanted the gap filled. So I stuck up couple of pieces of printing paper in between the modules, deciding which module on which side I wanted to make longer to fill the gap. And then I took the Foam Pro, stuffed it in the gap, filled it with the material, let it set up for 1/2 hour, and came back and the module gap was filled. I was able to pull the paper out where it was necessary to trim it off the top, and the paper keeps the 2 modules from sticking together. So I've essentially expanded the length of a module almost 1/4 inch, didn't have to change the rail joiner length, and it worked. So that was some stuff I learned this week working on the layout, and it was quite an interesting project, and it's going to run in the May What's Neat video over at Model Road Hobbyist Magazine. And I think I'm coming at the end of my list. Daniel, say something.
All right. Well, I have to say, not because I can work on my Eagle Scout project, I have had a few moments where I could work on my layout. I had gotten some scenery supplies from Dirk Reynolds, and as you see, I got some clips here we'll drop in, but I've been basically working on getting more green on my layout. As I had said in previous podcasts, I said I'd get back on the scenery this year. I have, and I've probably got about 3/4 left. But like I said, Dirk helped me out, so as you see me, I'm sprinkling down my ground foam, and I'm using the Woodland Scenic Cement to spray it all down. And really, I just am like, I'm not going to probably go to the hobby shop is there to buy stuff, but Dirk said, come over to my house because I just got to get rid of some stuff. So I went over to his house, just bought some stuff from him, and on the way I was.
Good.
Now, the subject that Chris Palomares wanted us to discuss tonight is if you were going to do another scale besides what you already do, if you wanted to do another scale, what would it be? And why? Or if you wanted to get out of the scale you've got now and completely do another scale, what would that scale be? Has that something that any of you guys have ever contemplated or thought about?
I mean,
I did end for a while, and I'll bring some of my Autorex.
I would actually
it just wasn't realistic enough for me. I know it's a lot different now, but this was in 1973. When I first, the Rapido stuff and the Aurora postage stamp trains first came out, that's the kind of stuff I had. So But they had auto racks, so that's why I tried N-scale, you know.
And they looked neat. They looked
Yeah.
longer in N-scale, didn't
Right,
they?
yeah.
They looked neat.
Yeah.
You know, I'd just stick with the HO scale equipment, but if I were to choose another scale, it'd just have to be O scale.
Right.
Why?
Because, well, I mean, I like all the features they put into it. Like, their steam engines. Every steam engine has like smoke effects. Smoking stack, smoking whistle, some blowdown effects. And they also put just, I don't know, because they could put a big speaker in there so you can really get a booming
See,
action from
well,
the
that's
engine.
If I was a rich man, I would
Yeah.
go with O scale.
Right.
O-scale.
And you had a lot of room.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's big.
big.
Oh, man.
It's
Yeah.
big. It's beautiful.
We've
I
seen
would
some
love to.
gorgeous.
You got to have space though, because
Right.
you know if I
Right,
was a rich
it
man,
does.
you know I just have a whole separate barn and I could have a giant layout. Because when I started coming back into this hobby probably about 8-10 years ago, I started initially with N scale.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, not really feeling it. And, you know, I tried a little bit of it, but I'm like, no, HO's definitely the way to go for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we've been at. But if I was a rich man, O scale, they got some very pretty models. And
They do. I mean,
and the features and stuff, sound and stuff like that, it
Right.
blows you away.
the opportunity to detail in O-scale, too, is just almost unlimited.
Oh, God, yes.
So,
But I mean, they are at a pretty penny. They're not
yeah.
cheap.
When I was filming those layouts in Colorado about 3 weeks ago, that was something that was contemplated. I even heard Kevin Rubel discussing it with me, and we were talking back and forth with Jess about it. It's like, my goodness, after we saw all these various different types of scales, F scale, large scale modeled inside, N scale, HO, O, all the scales we're familiar with, and seeing such beautiful layouts done with these various scales, it actually almost causes me to question what it is I'm modeling.
Yeah.
But because I've had the opportunity to represent so many different manufacturers in this industry and their products in all various scales in the last 22 years, be it from large scale to Z scale, I've ON30, HON3, all this stuff I've modeled, I've been forced into, if you want to say it, modeling all the scales. And HO scale to me is still the most enjoyable. The material's readily available.
Yeah.
There's always something neat this week. You know, I can't. If I went to another scale, it'd be narrow gauge. I'd just go Colorado full blown.
It'd still be HO, though.
It would then still
I mean,
be. Well,
yeah, I mean,
boy,
that's- to
Jimmy
me, that's
Peter,
the
Bill
ideal.
Peter, Jimmy Booth, those guys, SN3, that stuff is gorgeous. That would be tempting if I were picking only one scale and I had the money for the Cadillac products. I might go S scale, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It would be
American
S scale.
Boy, that's
S scale narrow gauge. Billy Peter, Jim Booth, PBL. That
a lot
kind
of
stuff.
vehicles in that scale. With
Oh, it's
the
gorgeous.
164th cars, man, you go nuts.
It's like every day you walk in and watch a museum model go past your layout.
Yeah.
Also, one of the O-scale companies, MTH, are starting to make S-scale trains with full sound and smoke effects, too. So there you go. You could also get the same thing you get with HO scale models.
Cool.
Sound and everything. So,
We ought to thank our other cameraman tonight, Tom Carr from Delaware.
Tom Carr.
He,
Thanks, Tom.
Became
Here, you
a
wanna
friend
maybe
of the
say
show.
something?
He came by last summer, and we kind of formed
No,
a
we
friendship
appreciate
with
it.
him.
That's awesome.
Yes, we
He
do.
rode Amtrak out here from,
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Delaware
we,
all the way
uh,
to St. Louis.
Delaware to Chicago,
Yeah,
then down to St. Louis.
that's neat, man.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful trip.
Also, we want to thank Thomas Heil for running camera number 1 for us. Dirk was unable to make it this evening. I think he had a train show today.
I think he was
Yeah,
getting
went
some
out by
fashion
the trains.
advice.
Oh, my. Okay, well, gee whiz, Lionel will be glad to hear about that. I don't know that there's anything else to talk about. We talked about John and his podcast. John?
GSG Multimedia.
Yes, yes.
I don't want to say his last name, but
I haven't watched the new latest video, but I've been waiting for it. I heard about it a month ago, and that's going to be where he compares Digitrax to NCE.
yeah, and see.
So it'll be interesting to see how they handled that product differentiation and what the end result is. I look forward to watching that tonight, to be honest with you. I can't wait. I shouldn't even have talked about it until after I've seen it, but I like John. John sent us some nice messages on the emails, on the YouTube feedback, which we appreciate all of your comments. That sounded like something big upstairs falling. We appreciate your comments. We want thumbs up and thumbs down, and we're going to close this one out. Danielle, so you want to just help me shoot out number 30 here?
Yeah, all right. Well, actually, real quick, since
Uh-oh.
I'm in scout uniform, why don't I recite the, you mind if I do the oath or the scout law or something like that?
Go ahead and do what you want. I love scouts.
All right. All right, so for everyone in scouts, you got something called the scout oath,
Okay.
which, or let's just say the scout law, all right? So, Ken, come on, with me. Hold up
I
3
remember
fingers.
this.
Get me
part.
started. Get
Come
me
on.
started. Get me started.
A scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient,
cheerful,
thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
Okay.
Okay.
And we just promoted an organization, but it's a good one, and it's all awesome. Daniel, we love you, brother.
Thanks.
All right, podcast number 30, March 24th, 2018. Ken Patterson ending it with Mike Buddy, Daniel Coombs, Tom Carr, and Thomas Heil. Thank you very much for watching. Thumbs up and thumbs down. We do like your readers' questions and comments. And guys, let's go run some trains.
How about it? Let's go do it.
Okay, guys.
I don't.
All right. Whatever.
Okay. Gas on.
Simple.